Then Chatha dropped the kidney and scrambled up over his body on hands and knees. He pressed his face close to Leo's, filling his darkening vision with that innocent and maniacal visage. "No, no," he tisked, wagging a blood-wet finger before Leo's nose. "No fair." And that was when tears would burn into Leo's eyes. That secret of all secret hopes dashed all to hell as the beast laid hands on him like an evangelical preacher touched by God, and healed him. Leo awoke with a savage shout, his body lurching out of bed, forcing him to stumble and fall as his sleeping muscles refused to awaken and do their duty. He fell to the floor, his hands barely reaching out in time to keep him from landing face first into the luxurious carpeting. The jarring of his body shook sweat from the tips of his hair, a shower of salt and water spraying everywhere. He was soaked in it, his bare chest slick with wet and his boxers plastered to him in their drenched state. He tried to slow his breathing, tried to make himself understand that he was awake, and for the moment, safe. This house was the home of his best friend, the friend who had seen him healed and who was patiently waiting for him to open up and talk about the horror that he had been through. But he would be waiting a very long time, because Leo would never ever speak a word about it to anyone. He would not resurrect those moments in the bright light of day. He would never burden another soul with the horror he had survived, somehow. No, he would go to his grave with it. He would drag it into the afterlife with him, and this time it would be the one kicking and screaming. She tilted her head, listening to the wind, feeling the eddy of how it flowed freely, or better yet, washed around things. The rush and sound of it acted like sonar, telling her where everything was just by the way it shifted. When there was no wind, she was as good as blind to what was happening in the world. And those were the moments that she found as terrifying as humans would feel, if only they knew what was out there. What was out there, living and breathing beside them without their knowledge. Knowledge. Knowledge was key, and it was her job to deliver information. Her people could feel and sense things all around, just like she could with the actual wind right at that moment. But unlike the surety of knowing there was a cow 20 paces to her left and a church with a steeple 20 miles due south, the future had murky eddies. The wind of the future was blowing in bad directions now, and if the wind blew one way, tragedy and horror would reign. If it blew another, there would be tragedy and survival, and yet another would bring victory and joy. It was the first that must be avoided at all cost. The others would fall as they would, and that was as it should be. Whistle and blow, she murmured, the phrase like second nature, her people's way of saying what will be, will be. She pushed off the branch of a tree, letting the wind wash over her, letting it lift her up. The feel of it flowing over her skin was the most comforting sensation she knew. There was nothing like it in all the world, nothing more freeing. She had no idea how anyone could take it for granted, or how mortals bore being bound to the earth. Then again, they tried to fight it, didn't they, in their great lumbering metal machines? Poor things. She supposed it was their comfortable and safe way of doing things. But the wind was not safe, and as much as it buoyed up, it was the sudden plummeting sweeps down toward soil that made life course through the veins. Those humans who flew on silk wings, yes, they were the braver sort. To know that a single tear in that silk could end their fragile mortal lives, it was invigorating. Those were humans she longed to know better. But that was impossible. Contact with humans was strictly prohibited. Well, in true form, anyway. You could hardly swing a cat without bumping into a mortal these days. It was why they lived so distant from the nearest human dwelling. But other things had the same inclination, and the world was growing small. But that would cease to be a worry for very much longer if the wind kept blowing so ill. She moved low and fast, marveling at the cacti and other strange vegetation. She had never been in this part of the United States before, which was strange, really. She loved to travel and see the world, to see how very different one place was from another. And when she had glutted on the topography of a region, she would move deeper into the area, mixing with humans, learning all about the differing cultures involved and the almost rhythmic beauty of their languages. And food, God, how she loved food. She shook the thought off. She was letting herself get distracted. There was business to be done. Sightseeing would have to wait for a different day and a very different set of circumstances. Marissa Anderson looked up from the garden to glance over her